Hello, today, welcome to the Lowdown Truth. It is October 2nd, 2025. I wanted to talk about the online world and the phenomena of people videotaping themselves and disconnecting with reality. I want to explore this hive mind phenomena where people feel compelled to videotape themselves, take pictures of themselves, and constantly share this online, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. It's always, have you noticed, it's always about videotaping people, their face, their eyes, their body. It's always about showing yourself, and it's always it's in the thumbnails, the picture of the person. Everybody's got their own talk show. Everybody has their own walk and talk. Whatever, content strategy that they're copying from other people, they are adopting different methods, but it always includes videotaping their face and their body talking. It's always including, and they think it's to connect with people. But really what it's doing is disconnecting them from reality. Now, I understand that certain people, like pastors, streaming a live service, or people that, public speakers, people that do public speaking, maybe they're activist or leaders in a certain movement in the real world, that they can videotape these instances, or maybe you could say like people that interview people, that's what they do for their job. But everybody's essentially becoming a talk show host or an interviewer, but it's always about their face. It's always about them videotaping themselves, either through Zoom. It's become normalized, but there's not much discussion about what it's doing psychologically to people, sociologically, how it's changing them, how it's changing our society when you have the majority of people that are doing this. You have people that are, don't have much of a following, and you have people that have all levels of creators, you call them, all levels of people are videotaping their faces and then showing it, taking pictures of themselves and their families, and then sharing this. Constantly. That's what they do constantly. Everywhere they go, they take a picture. Everything they do, they take a picture or videotape themselves and then share this online. How is that affecting people? I don't hear much discussion about it. But I believe that this is part of the social engineering that they're doing to disconnect people from reality. Just the self-importance, the self-obsession, the narcissistic mindset that you have to constantly take pictures of yourself, to constantly videotape yourself and your life, and then share this online. As you become a quasi-celebrity in your own little world, based upon the amount of subscribers or followers or views. What is that doing to people? I would contend that it is a very negative, destructive factor in the fabric of our society. When you have the majority of people that are trying to be famous or quasi-celebrities or think that they are, that is going to create a negative impact on a whole when most people are like that, because they're disconnected from reality. They have become that online persona. They have become what they are creating. They're not who they are. They're not the person they are outside of the camera. They're the person that they are perceived to be while they're on the camera. So they live according to this mindset. Something happens to people when you put a camera in front of your face. You change. When you take pictures of yourself. The Native Americans used to say that you take a picture, it takes away your soul. And they might have been onto something there, but imagine nowadays when you take a picture constantly of yourself, your face, your body, and you videotape yourself constantly, sharing this online, selling yourself, selling your brand, branding yourself, becoming this persona that you're perceived to be, creating this perception of who you are, and then acting and behaving and thinking in accordance with that created persona. You are no longer what you would have been if you didn't do that. It changes you. These creators are constantly thinking about what they're going to do, who they are, according to that persona. The more attention they get, the more they become disconnected from reality. And all they can think about is what they are going to do and who they are when they have the camera on their face. And it's always the camera on their face. It has to be the camera on their face for some reason. You hardly have any creators out there that are not videotaping themselves. You know, like documentaries and such in the past, the documentarian didn't take videos of themselves. Like, here we are, we're the ones doing this. Here we are eating. Here we are going to the bathroom. Here we are showering. No, they did a documentary about a subject, and they were professional, and they didn't, videotape themselves doing it. And there's a reason for that, because they wanted it to be about the subject, the topic. And nowadays, it's always about that person, the person. It's always about the creator, supposedly the creator, the copycatter. They always want to show their face. Many of these podcasts, they don't have to show themselves while they're interviewing somebody. It doesn't add anything to it to have to sit there and look at yourself. It doesn't matter. But they do it because it gets more views. But by doing it, you are disconnecting yourself from reality. You are losing touch with the reality without that camera on your face. Just as everybody knows, when you have a camera on your face, when you're videotaping yourself, there's a definite tendency to act different. And that difference becomes solidified as your online persona. Your perception of yourself when you watch yourself, because people watch themselves, after they videotape their videos, after they create their content, then they watch it. Now you are seeing yourself, and your perception of that online persona becomes solidified. And then you start acting and behaving in accordance with what you perceive that online persona to be. It changes your psychological makeup, your whole identity. It's a very profound and powerful influence in shaping how people act and think. And I would say, if you're not made for that, if God's not called you for that, then it's going to be a negative influence. And especially when you have the majority of people in society doing it. Because it doesn't matter if a person has hundreds of subscribers or millions, they're going to change who they perceive they are. And then that change is going to affect how they act and behave all the time, at all moments, because they're always thinking about how they're going to, what they're going to do, what they're going to be when they're in front of the camera. What I'm saying is the way that people think and behave is different when there's a camera, or they think there's going to be a camera, or there's not. And reality doesn't have a camera in front of your face. reality is outside of the online world. And if you're a true Christian, somebody that understands the conspiracy, somebody that understands that Satan is in charge of this world, and that the internet was created by the dark governments, by the black ops, DARPA, then you know that you don't want to put yourself in this online world that's being created to control us. That's not something that you're going to do. That's not something that a true Christian is going to do haphazardly, unless God really tells them that they need to reach people. But that's just an excuse for most people to get attention, to be a quasi-celebrity. There's a price for everything we do. Every choice that we make, there's a price to pay. And people think that, being famous or getting attention is worth any price they have to pay. But I don't think they understand, the reality of what that actually is. Because they're usually doing this when they're younger and they don't have wisdom. Because have you noticed, every single person now is putting their face online? Every creator is like, here's my face, here's me, look at me while I'm talking, look at me. It's always about them. And each one of them is now living their life in accordance with that online persona. Each one of them has been disconnected from reality. And they're off in some online la-la land every day in their head as they think about their next video, or as they think about themselves in their last videos. It's a constant distraction from reality, and they no longer are normal people. They act out the online persona. People act differently. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you see these people and the way that they act and think. Would they be like that if there was no camera in front of them? No, they wouldn't. It's a false reality that they're presenting, and they don't even know it. And that other people that are watching, they want to be like them. They want to say, oh, well, this person is so happy, this person is so faithful, this person is so smart, and blah, 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 whatever it is. And they want to do the same thing. They want to copycat it. Because they trust that that person is doing it, that it's a beneficial thing. Because when they're on camera, it's always happy, go, good stuff, exciting. It's only a it's only a snapshot of that person, and it's the part of that person that they're trying to present to people. It might have similarities to their true self, or what was their true self at a certain time, but that true self has become this fabricated persona that they are now presenting in order for it to garner attention. It's a mind warp. It's kind of like when you're trying to watch, animals in the wild, and you want to observe like a pack of animals in their natural state, how they act and interact with each other like in the wild. But just by being an observer, the animals act different. So you can never know, how they would act if your presence wasn't there. And maybe they can, maybe you can do a video or hide a camera or something without a person there and get a bit more accurate picture of that. But every time a person is there, and animals can smell that person and detect them, then they're gonna be different than they would be if that person wasn't there. That's what the online world is. Like, you think that by looking at people, as they walk and show their face, and as they videotape themselves doing whatever, you think that that's like a representation of this person's real self and real life. That's what that's what the perception is. Kind of like a reality show or something. But it's not. Or even a talk host now. Everybody's got their talk host show, and you think that is their real self. That's the what this person is really like. But it's not. Some people are made, God has made some people to be in front of the camera. But that's a very small subset of people, and especially true Christians. It is not a place where, that you can go and be humble. Like, it takes a special person to not become prideful, to not become neurotic while they're in front of the camera. And so, most of these people that are putting their face online, putting their pictures online all the time, it is changing who they are. They're becoming disconnected from their true self and from reality outside of the online world, which is reality, by the way. The online world is only a false reality. The online world is only a perception, a snapshot, and the actual reality that it represents is different than what it seems. You can gather information about reality from the perception of its representation online, but the online world is not reality. And oftentimes it is much different, because just the fact that it's online, like I've been saying, thwarts the actual reality. Just by having a phone or a camera in your face changes the way people act and think. So you cannot get a true representation of reality online. Like I said, some people are more natural, and it comes more natural for them to be on camera and be real and not let it affect their neurotic tendencies. But it still influences everyone. But some people maybe are called to do that, like pastors or certain people. But what I'm seeing is everybody's doing it. Everybody online is doing it. Anybody and everybody is seeking this attention, and they're doing it almost all of them are just doing it by showing their face in pictures and videos. And I think it's changing the psychology of people for the worse. And I don't think they're even aware of what it's doing. I don't take it lightly myself, even just talking into the phone, like just doing my podcast, my audio. I don't take it lightly how that changes me, how that influences me. But there's something that that stops me from ever videotaping myself or taking pictures of myself and sharing it online. Because I've thought about it before, and I just couldn't do it because I didn't have peace around it. Because it changes, like I said, it's very powerful. And I'm not called to do that. If I did that and I showed my face and I copied how people do, and I videotape my life and everything that I do, and then I could have a lot more success, because that's people are drawn toward that. Like, they want to look at somebody. I think there's some sort of like, it's almost like it's a magnetic pull for people that are doing something that is destructive. You're drawn towards people who are giving away their soul. I don't know what exactly it is. People want to see people. They're curious. They want to watch people. It's just like watching people fight or something. We don't really want to see people get hurt, but we're kind of drawn to, like, maybe watch that. And that is kind of what I think people are doing when they're watching people videotape their lives. And I've done it too, where I watch creators the same, like, not probably as much as most people, but there's a few people that I watch and I'm like, this is how I'm kind of constructing this, what I'm talking about. I think about it and I'm like, this is odd. I wonder what videotaping themselves like this is doing to this person. What are they like when the camera's not on their face? How is it changing them? And for some people, it is drastically changing them because they videotape themselves all the time. This is what they want to become. They want to become that persona. And so they are like, almost like they're stepping into the online world, into this other dimension, and leaving reality behind. It's like the more that you videotape yourself and take pictures of yourself, the more that you put of yourself online, it's almost like you're stepping into that dimension and you're stepping out of reality, and people that are fully committed to sharing their lives and their face and their everything they do online, I honestly feel bad for them. I feel bad for them no matter how many millions of viewers they have, because they are in that other dimension. Like they've walked through that, they've walked through the mirror of that dimension, and they are no longer with us. And if they ever want to walk back out into the real world, into reality, it's going to be difficult for them to ever detach themselves from that persona, because that persona, that creation of themselves, is always going to be there online. Even if they delete it all, it's still, there's a remnant of it. It's always going to be part of who they are. And I believe that the online world, is created by the fallen angels, by the workers of iniquity, in order to control us, to social engineer us, and eventually to keep us from living in this system. So why would Christians walk through that dimensional portal and put themselves in that world? Why would they do that? They think they're doing it to reach people, but you're not reaching them with who you really are. You're reaching them with what you are perceived to be. And if you are not called for that, if you haven't even considered what that does psychologically, then I doubt that you're called to do that. I think they're doing that just so you can get attention, just so you can become quasi-famous for your own pride, your own ambitions. It's not for God. It's not for other people to come to God. Because really what you're doing is you're setting an example for other people to follow. Show yourself, show your face, videotape yourself, show your family. This is what you do, and you can be successful. You can make money, and you can be somebody. You can be somebody. Your life can have meaning and importance if you walk through this dimensional portal. It's almost like a ritual. Like you have to go through this portal. You have to sacrifice your reality, being in reality. And then you are initiated. And now you can be in this world. And you'll get rewarded by the ruler of that world. Because if you were really, that's the other part of it, is the only reason why anybody gets big or does anything is because they are within the bounds of the agenda of the New World Order. Because if they're actually speaking the truth, if they're actually going against the agenda, then they're not going to become big. So that's another aspect of it, is your people self-censor, and in subtle ways, and in order for them to grow and become something, they pattern themselves after others that are compromised, so they can become something, have a certain amount, so they can make money, and then you're rewarded for it. You're rewarded. Nobody is getting rewarded that is going against the agenda. They're not being rewarded by the ruler of the online world, which is the fallen angels, which is Satan. Yeah, people that are in the controlled opposition, the controlled wake-up zone, they'll be rewarded. And they might be sincere, but they're not going against the agenda. So it seems like, that there's this dissent and this counter to the mainstream, but that's really just part of the agenda. That's why people are rewarded in that area, in that controlled wake-up zone, because you're serving the purpose of the New World Order. But people that are truly going against and speaking the truth, they don't get rewarded in the same way. They get shadow banned, they get censored, they get demonetized, and they just don't get the attention that you would if you're within the bounds of the agenda. So that's another aspect I've talked about before, but that's the temptation when you become, when you step into that dimensional portal. That's the temptation for you to grow and get big and become somebody. I just imagine for some of these people, that have grown their channel or their podcast has grown to, these pretty big levels, how that changes them. And I don't think that they really counted the cost. Like, what price are you going to pay for you to walk through that portal? Show your whole life, show your every thought, your every waking moment, or just show yourself, your face, videotape yourself, put your face on every thumbnail. Just sell that self, sell your face, all over the place. And then what is the price for that? What kind of a person are you becoming as you become more detached from the world outside of the online world? Because the real world is outside of the online world. The online world eventually will be only a place where people can be if they take the mark of the beast. That's the only place. You can only be in that world if you take the mark of the beast. So think about that. You want to become somebody in the online world. You have to consider that. Like, eventually, if you're a Christian, you're going to have to like say no to being in the online world, because eventually they're going to control our access to the online world in order to leverage us to go along with their agenda. So why would you invest yourself into the online world as a Christian in such a capacity that people are doing? If you look at the work that I do online through my writing and this podcast, it's to speak against technology. It's just to speak against the system. I'm not trying to find a niche that is successful and become something. I'm trying to use it in order to have people think critically about technology. That's my main theme in my work, is to question, the online world and the purposes of it and what it's doing, to speak critically of it, and to talk about Jesus Christ and the Holy Bible. That's the main purpose, is to help people not be deceived, to help people hold on to the truth, to grow closer to God. And to grow closer to God is not to go into that dimensional portal of the online world. That's going to take you farther from God, because the more self that you are. The more, when it says deny yourself and die to yourself, that doesn't mean take videos of yourself and pictures of yourself. See, that doesn't go along with it. When it's all about yourself and your face and you're videotaping yourself and pictures, that's not dying to yourself. You are promoting the perception of yourself. That self is the world. The worldly self is what God's talking about. It's the carnal man. The inner man, the spiritual man, that's what we're supposed to focus on. That's what we're supposed to feed. And the more that becomes our reality, the more we're ready for heaven. The more we're ready to die, the closer we are to God, and the more powerful we are in the spirit and against the powers of darkness. We can't become a carnal man in order to reach people. And to become an online persona is to become a carnal man. Like I said, unless God has called you and it doesn't affect you because of God's anointing. But from what I've seen, most of the people that are online are full of themselves. They're just full of pride, and they just love to show their face and them talking, and they're just so excited, and they're being somebody, they're acting a part that they wouldn't be if the camera wasn't on their face all the time. And I believe eventually they don't even know who they are, because the camera's on their face so often that they don't even know who they are when the camera's not on their face. It's a very sad, lonely reality for these people when the camera is no longer there. That's why they probably will take the mark of the beast, because to not get online, to not have access online, would mean they have to actually die to their self, to that online persona. And if it's everything that you are, and it's everything that you're basing your life on, then how likely are you to die to that self? See? It's a bridge. It's a connection, not to other people. It's a connection to the world. Is what it is. You're connecting yourself to the world. The more that you walk through that dimensional mirror into the online world, the more you are connecting yourself to the world, to Satan's kingdom. And it's not something to take lightly. It's very powerful. And I would kind of think of it as a dimension that you're going into. Maybe that would help people to think more realistically about what they're doing. If you're going to videotape yourself or take pictures of yourself and your family and your life, you are essentially jumping into that portal, that dimension of the online world, which is run by Satan. It's not some place to go lightly. So that's just what I want to say. Maybe this will help somebody. Maybe it'll help people think about, technology, what it really is, what it really does to us. That's what I do. That's my voice. You'll see that I've never videotaped myself or my life. That I'm very careful with my pictures. I only have a few pictures. It's not something that I do, and that's for a reason. I do write because I feel like I'm called to be a writer. I felt that ever since I was 11 years old. I felt like I've been called to write, but I write about stuff that doesn't make me money or get me a lot of attention. But it's what I feel called to write. It's just like what I talk about. I'm not talking about this because I think it's going to get me a lot of views, because all it does is get me shadow banned and censored most of the time. But for the few people that do listen and that I help, it's really rewarding. And it is a few, but it's enough, and that's what I feel like I'm called to do. I would just, God will bring this to who He wants to hear it, and hopefully you can consider, what is going on and what you're gonna do with yourself and your life when it comes to, this topic. Until next time, God bless in Jesus our Lord. Hope this finds you well.